you know that cartels are not to be messed with. These
Not to be
psychopathic drug
messed
lords take
with.
offense even if you look at them the wrong way. So why do people still insist on mocking them online? In March 2023, Eric Tadido
Tripping.
Ramirez made headlines all over the US. He was a Texas national and a smart, savvy guy according to those who knew him. He was also proud he managed to steal $50,000 from a Mexican cartel. But as soon as he bragged about this at
You bragging over 50 bands? That ain't even a year's salary, and you bragging on that? Well, you tripping.
a party, he instantly
You could
regretted it.
blow through that
Let's
in a
find out the
day.
brutal fate of Eric Tadido Ramirez and all those who crossed the Mexican
That's a
cartels.
goddamn Toyota Camry, boy.
In 2017, the pirate of Culiacan was the talk of the town. Juan Luis Lagunas Rosales was born in 2000. By the time he was 17, he was the internet's greatest sensation in Mexico, dubbed the El Parita de Culiacan, or the Pirate of Culiacan. He had over 1 million followers on Facebook and more than 300,000 on Instagram.
Oh,
For
he
many
was
teens
popping
around the
it.
world, this is a dream come true. Sadly, though, he was famous for all the wrong reasons. Juan had had a tough upbringing. His father had abandoned the family before he was even born, and his mother left him in the care of his grandmother. When he was 15, he dropped out of school and ran away to Culiacan. He had a job as a car cleaner, and in his spare time, he would go out and drink enormous amounts of alcohol. Most psychologists would say substance abuse is a way to escape an unhappy life, but the pirate was too young to know this or to do something about it. Around this time, someone filmed him downing an entire bottle of vodka. Juan passed out on
Damn.
camera, but this didn't bother him. In fact, he decided to make a thing out of it. His popularity online quickly snowballed, and his newfound fame earned him invitations to more and more parties. Soon, he began drinking compulsively, chugging down quantities that are abnormal even to the most seasoned adult drinkers. He would post videos on social media showing him chugging beer and bottles of whiskey,
At
sometimes getting so
concerts?
drunk he would pass out. These videos quickly went
Damn.
viral. Teenagers were amused by his party animal attitude, and people around the world were oddly fascinated by how a baby-faced teen could drink so much. This was wrong on so many levels,
He clearly can't if he passing out every day.
but you know how we tend to be fascinated by taboo or macabre content? Well, the Pirate of Culiacan was one such divisive sensation. Juan's social media stardom even earned him spots in music videos and at VIP events. And to look older, he tattooed his arms, drew a beard on his face, and photographed himself with guns, naked women, and
Yeah,
luxury
he
cars.
tripping.
To be honest, it was pretty sad that people encouraged him to continue this behavior online. The more followers he got, the more they demanded to see him drink and do stupid things. And it was one of these stupid things that led him to his sudden death. In the summer of 2017, Juan was arrested for underage drinking, but he was soon released, and this incident only made him more famous. He appeared in an interview discussing his tough childhood and early drinking problem. He said that his true passion was music and confessed he was hoping to curb his alcohol addiction in order to sign a contract with a record company and pursue his artistic career. The show had encouraged him to quit drinking and use his fame toward a better purpose.
Where his music at? I know that shit was garbage. It was hot garbage.
But right after the interview, Juan went back to his old habits. It was late 2017 and the Pirate of Culiacan was once again drunk live streaming. He recorded himself making silly jokes, then he topped them with, for any amused teenager watching, this was innocent fun. But kingpins have dictatorial personalities and zero tolerance to insult. If one thing is known, it's that you better steer clear of attacking their image. In the case of El Mincho, this couldn't be more true. Someone once said about El Mincho, "This is a guy who will execute your whole family based on not much more than a rumor. He just has zero regard for human life." Cartel kingpins have very fragile egos. Killing anyone who threatens their power is a way for them to preserve their feeling of being on top of the world. Sometimes it feels like a fly flapping its wings can threaten their ego. Sadly, El Mincho soon heard about this video. Unsurprisingly, he decided that this was betrayal and gave Juan a death sentence. On December 17th, Juan made
Don't greenlit that boy. Don't put bread on his head.
one last silly mistake. He posted on social media where he would be that night, inviting his followers to meet him
Put
at one of his
bread on
favorite
his
bars
head.
in
I'm
Jalisco.
trying to
He
make a
didn't
nigga
realize
wonder.
Mincho's men would also be tracking him. At 11 p.m., 4 armed men entered the bar and
Wait, what did I just see him doing? Whoa, I know y'all seen that. What was he in the club doing? Hey,
be
nah.
that night,
He
inviting
on
his
that
followers to
Diddy
meet
shit.
him at one of his favorite bars in Jalisco. He didn't realize Mincho's men would also be tracking him.
He's stroking
At
the
11 p.m.,
face.
4 armed men entered the bar and shot
Hey.
him 15 times.
Oh,
His face was completely disfigured. The authorities could only identify him for his tattoos. A bartender was also killed that night after one
face shot, face shot. They couldn't save him.
The bullets meant for Juan hit him. He died a few hours later in the hospital. In 2021, another poor teen in Mexico made the news. A 16-year-old boy in Acapulco was invited by the Jalisco New Generation cartel to work for them. When he refused, that was taken as a big insult. Much like all vulnerable teens roped in by the cartels, this boy lived in a poor family that hardly made ends meet. However, he was an honorable person and simply didn't want to do what he knew sicarios and narcos had to do to earn their money and respect. But when he insisted that he wouldn't be joining the CJ&G, the cartel decided that he had to be punished. You see, cartels rely on people's fear of them. If a teenager can say no to you, how does that make you look in front of the other cartels? So in October of that year, the 16-year-old was returning home from his cousin's birthday party when his taxi was crashed into by another vehicle. In a few seconds, he was
They
snatched
took
from the
out the
taxi and put
taxi?
inside the cartel's car. When news broke out that he'd been kidnapped by the CJ&G, no one was expecting him to live. Surprisingly, he did, just so that he could tell everyone what happens if you cross El Mencho's cartel. The boy was beaten for hours with a big wooden plank. Then, his captors
Pause, but they put wood to ass. They was hazing that boy.
put
Hold
his
on.
hands on the wooden plank and cut his index fingers off with a machete. It was no coincidence they went
Oh,
after his index fingers. There's very little you can do without them. However, you can be a narco
they
without
left
index
that boy
fingers.
like
Their message
this.
was clear. The boy should have taken their job offer. The captors also destroyed his fingers, making sure he couldn't reattach them later. As soon as he was released, the
That's
boy and his family
fucked
fled
up.
to Tijuana. They were receiving constant death threats from the CJ&G, and they knew they wouldn't have lasted much longer in Acapulco. According to the boy's father, they spent 10,000 pesos on medical treatment, far more than they can afford. The point of these stories? Cartels don't just target rival cartel members and police officers, they even target simple people who they think offended them. And now it's easier and easier to offend cartels on the internet. In the late hours of March 23, 2023, a man named Eric Tadillo Ramirez went to a house party and bragged about stealing from a cartel. Eric lived in Laredo, Texas, and had a large group of friends
Laredo.
he'd like to party with. That night, he was attending one of his friends' parties when his phone rang. He was on the phone for quite some time, chatting away and laughing nearby other partygoers. Indeed, his phone call was private. He didn't go into another room or outside, far away from the house. So at about 11 p.m. that night, people at the party heard Eric brag over the phone about stealing from a Mexican cartel. According to Eric, he scammed Cartel del Noreste of a staggering $50,000. An hour and 45 minutes later, Eric was kidnapped from that location. It
They
took
wasted
CBN less than
no
2 hours to have
time.
him tracked.
That ain't even enough time to watch a movie. They hopped in the car immediately, boy. Laredo right there by the border. They took that man.
Assaulted and abducted. Minutes later, he was seen trying to escape the moving vehicle on Juarez Lincoln International Bridge in Texas. Eric was seen last trying to escape from a moving pickup car on March 24th while driving onto Mexico on the Juarez Lincoln International Bridge in Laredo, Texas. Video footage showed a man with blood on his face trying to exit the passenger door of the car while it was still in motion. However, he was pulled back into the car, as per Vice. A glimpse of Eric's bloody, terrified face was the last sight of him. According to the FBI, the car belonged to the mother of Jonathan Cabrieles, a member of the Cartel del Noreste. A few days later, Cabrieles was arrested and charged with kidnapping, but Eric was far.
Why do y'all be committing crimes in vehicles that belong to you? That shit make no sense. At least take the plates off, scratch the VIN, do something. That shit make no sense. You could steal a car, buy a car, just have a
Far away
car,
from
do
Cabrieles
something
by then.
else, bro.
He was reported missing by his girlfriend and sister just hours after the kidnapping. However, apart from the car, the FBI had nothing. And it's not like they can scour through the entire Mexico, going from door to door and asking for Eric. The case is open, but it doesn't look hopeful.
The FBI is on the case of a missing Texas man they say bragged about stealing thousands of dollars from a Mexican cartel and then disappeared just 2 hours later.
2 weeks into Eric's
What's so crazy is, man, these cartels make 50,000 in 30 seconds. Like, they ain't have no business even coming after him. Like,
disappearance, the FBI announced that they found out the town Eric was taken to.
Now, according to reports, the vehicle then crossed into Nuevo Laredo, Mexico. This is what makes this case particularly unique, where you see a kidnapping on American soil and then brought into Mexico. This is particularly unique.
The FBI also said that 3 other suspects remain at large after Cabrieles' arrest. If you haven't heard of Cartel de Noreste before, well, they're descendants of Los Zetas, and there aren't many criminal organizations worse than the Zetas.
They are killing machines. Killing machines with no soul.
The core of their belief stands in
Killing
their very
machines
name.
with
Los
no
Zetas means
soul.
disease, and in Mexico, this is the tactical radio code for military officers. Los Zetas was the first militarized cartel because they literally started out as an army.
So what you saw was a change in the way drug cartels fought with violence. It was no longer those gang members with shaved heads and tattoos fighting with pistols and knives. It was militarized style, fighting like military units.
In 1997, Los Zetas were the Gulf Cartel's army. In 2009, they broke off from the Gulf Cartel. By then, they were already known as the bloodiest, most brutal cartel in Mexico. Who would face a paramilitary trained army with specialized weapons and a rule for glorifying violence? Indeed, the Zetas' bosses gave their soldiers honor medals for the most kills or the most brutal murders. There was another problem here. To stand a chance, other cartels became more violent.
So the Zetas really...
You gotta fight fire with fire at that point. It ain't shit else you could do.
upped the ante of violence within their conflict and their use of terror. I think a lot of this comes from the fact they were from the military and they had this instruction of how you defeat insurgencies, this anti-insurgency training that had originated in the United States, and this idea that you control territories through the use of terror.
During the 2010s, Los Zetas killed hundreds of undocumented immigrants in unspeakable ways, just because they suspected they might get recruited by the Gulf Cartel in their war against Los Zetas. They were tortured, violated, and made to fight each other to the death. They set fire to a casino, killing 50 people after its
Having gladiator fights? That sound like some gladiator shit.
owner refused to pay protection money. And in 2014, they decided to punish the entire city of Allende after two locals reportedly stole money from Los Zetas. Somewhere between 300 and 500
Y'all attacked the whole city. Nah, different.
people died.
Different.
It's a truly harrowing sight that so many people died. We can't even estimate correctly.
Shit looked like
People
the
and houses were
Holocaust.
literally reduced to ashes.
Y les digo a mis hijos, levántense, les digo, porque quién sabe qué está pasando en la calle. Digo, vístanse y nos salimos. Y todo empezó a tronar, ya no había luz, todo empezó a tronar, tanques, camionetas.
They swept the city with
Pero sí, ahí
tanks.
perdí a mis niños y a mi hija.
Real
When Los
tanks.
Zetas wanted 30 of their gang members out of prison, they organized a mass-scale prison riot that resulted in the death of 44 inmates. Other inmates escaped, including their own people, and caused more ruckus outside the prison. Los Zetas are agents of chaos. They thrive when violence is at the worst and create situations where people become monsters. It was one Zeta monster that stood out. Miguel Trevino Morales had no military training, but his ruthless and
You would've
sheer
thought he
brutality
did.
helped him
Shit.
take over the cartel after its military leaders were gunned down or arrested. Morales was the one who ordered most of the atrocities I've already talked about, but that's not what he went down in history for. His preferred torture method was slowly burning or boiling his enemies alive. He even had special kitchens
He turning y'all into stew. He what?
designed for cooking humans. Bloody handprints on walls, stained clothes, plastic cable ties, machetes, and as one person observes, the crunch of bones beneath a thick blanket of ash. This is what the police of Mexico
Good
discovered
God.
after Morales was done with his victims. But imagine how the place looked during. To make matters worse, he didn't just boil his enemies, rival cartel sicarios and the like, he took their families too. Reportedly, Morales boiled babies too, and once he put one in a microwave.
Nah, see, that's where you lost me. You put somebody baby in a microwave, dog? You hit that 30 seconds?
In 2013, one of his former
Oh.
hitmen told the press that Miguel couldn't sleep at night if he
Hit the
didn't take a
popcorn
life
button.
that day. Another journalist wrote that Miguel sometimes ate his victims' still beating hearts. This was one of the many tactics of instilling fear in his enemies.
Yeah, we gonna end it right there. He said he couldn't go to sleep if he ain't killed somebody today. That boy got murder on his mind. Oh,